Let's have a look now at a young designer that has already made her mark in the industry. I'm talking about Abigail Betz.
Proudly South African designer Abigail Betz reincarnates, albeit with a postmodern twist, visions of Alice's Wonderland. Distinctly feminine, Grecian opulence embraces a sense of the whimsical in her latest collection, evoking the delights fairy tales are made of. We met the lady behind the name just hours before her models hit the runway at this year's Africa Fashion Week.
Well, this show is kind of a continuation from our last collection, which was a love story, and I'm an absolute romantic. It was just something. It was actually a color that triggered the whole inspiration of the collection for me.
On the source of her creativity, Abigail has found that inspiration is undeniably omnipresent.
A contrast of navy and baby blue, it was that particular color that really triggered the whole thing. It can be anything, and you can be sitting anywhere at any time.
A self-professed optimist, Abigail vehemently rejected the negative energy generated by the savings crisis of the recent past. A collection boldly entitled Screw the Recession minced no words in telling the economic downturn just where to get off.
It was a time when everybody was very angry and everybody was losing their jobs and everybody was quite depressed. And I think what I really wanted to say about that was screw the recession, we're going to get through this. I like to uplift the client or the person that's wearing my garments. I like to put out a very positive energy.
Veering slightly from that which she feels hopeful about, we discussed her brief partnership with a corporate investor and why for now she prefers to stand on her own two beautifully clad feet.
I think a lot of investors believe that if they pump money into something, they want to see a return immediately, and with design and art it doesn't work like that. It takes time to build the company, to build the brand.
Where is Africa then, as far as establishing successful partnerships between the corporate and arts-driven sectors, such as those long existing in the fashion industries of Europe and North America? More importantly, is this the push that needs to come to shove to increase the value and presence of African designer brands? Abigail remains skeptical.
It would only increase the value and the presence if the investors were a lot more less money orientated as far as wanting a return on their money immediately. The investors would have to be people who really understand the arts and understand how it actually works and understand how long it actually takes to build your name and to build a brand and how much you need to invest in it. And there needs to be the right marriage, because a partnership, like any partnership, like with marriage, you've got to click. But I think the corporate investors do need to be a bit more educated, I think, as far as design and art is concerned.
Though deferring her participation in the nuptials of fashion and finance, visions for her brand's future won't be waiting for anything but kismet to come to fruition.
We need to open another store. So we've been looking around, whether it's in South Africa or Paris or New York. We're going to wait and see, wait for the signs, yes. And when the time is right, then it will happen.
Victor, looking at all the shows, all the fashion weeks that are we not diluting the industry by Johannesburg Fashion Week, Cape Town, Durban, Africa Fashion Week? What is the thought around that?
I think you're spot on. We are diluting. I think as an industry, we need to get to a point where we say there's a spring-summer fashion week, there's a autumn-winter fashion week. That's the ideal scenario. That's what happens everywhere around the world. It also gives the designers more time to plan their collections. Now, the way we have it right now in SA, where you have a plethora of fashion weeks, you're putting the designers in a situation where they have to choose who they go with, which is not really the ideal situation. What you really should be doing is letting the designers do what they do best.
But also consumers don't know where to go.
Absolutely.
You know, do I go to Joburg versus Durban, which is the best? What am I going to see?
Yeah, absolutely. And it also affects a whole lot of things on the back end. You know, ticket sales to these events, consumers get burnout in terms of fashion. At least if they have it penciled into their diaries that there's 2 key events that happen throughout the year, everybody looks forward to it. The sponsors are smiling because the right audiences are being attracted to the right events. So yes, I think it's ideal to have 2 key events.
We'll talk about events. The World Cup. What was interesting for me is that Stone Cherry actually pulled out of the Africa Fashion Week because of the World Cup. What is your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a good thing to coincide with an event on this magnitude, or not rather? What is your thought?
I think that had we not penciled our event to coincide with the World Cup, we could have looked back and regretted it. Yeah. The reality is we've done it. The World Cup only comes to...
and you had a good turnout.
Yeah, absolutely. The turnout was fantastic. The purpose and the reason for doing it during the World Cup is purely because, remember, Fashion Weeks are about... it's a marketing platform for the designers. Yeah. And what better platform than a fashion week in the middle of the World Cup where you have...
Did you attract foreigners? Is that
yes, we actually did, and we had a lot of foreigners coming into our store, and that was actually one of the main reasons why I moved across to AFI, was to show and to showcase during this time, because I knew there'd be a lot of eyes on us at this particular time.
So then your thoughts on Stone Cherry?
Well, I mean, you know, Stone Cherry, we had a meeting, we agreed, both ourselves as AFI and Stone Cherry, that it would make sense for them not to show this time around. And having made that decision, we then planned the event in such a way that we accommodated them not showing. So it was a mutual agreement by consent, by mutual consent. Yeah. So it's not as if they pulled out, as it were. It was, you know, we sat down and actually looked at the different elements of what it meant. Remember, also there were a lot of some matches that were unexpected. I mean, who knew that Ghana would get to the quarterfinals on that Friday night? You know, so it was a mutually agreed decision.
Yeah. Well, Abigail, how easy or how difficult is it to establish a brand in the fashion industry?
It's impossible.
Especially when you're competing with the likes of Stone Cherry, Marianne Fassler, etc.
It's impossible.
Well, that's good to know.
Sorry, everyone.
Doing differently.
But it is. It's
yeah.
I think it's got everything to do with what you want and what you want to achieve.
Is that enough?
And it's staying power. I mean, I can think of how many times I thought, okay, it's now time to get a real job. You know, let's stop playing around, let's go get a real job. But I'm glad I stuck with it. It's really, I mean, we've been, Abigail Betz has been around since 1997. And it's taken me all this time. I mean, I was only able to open my first store 2 years ago. Wow. And I mean, I'm still nowhere near where I want the brand to be. Yeah. So it's constantly, every day, knocking away and working and working and working, you know.
But Sanwabile, do you think that the designers are getting their target audience wrong? Are they making clothes that people out there would actually want to wear?
You've got to create your own market.
Yeah.
Actually, what happened is in the industry, we've got a big industry. So you have to look your niche in the space and find where you fit in. You don't just only design for the mere fact of designing. Like I was saying, that it's not about glamour and glitz. It's a business. You still have to stick to the business of fashion at the end of the day. Like so you're saying that people come in and then they disappear the following day. The reason is that these are the people who came in and thought that money is going to flow from the sky. But you have to sustain yourself, be heated by the heat of the industry.
But how exactly would you sustain yourself if somebody like Abigail Betz is telling us that when they start young, they are battling? What would you say to them?
It is good to battle.
It is good to battle.
It is good to battle because it teaches you. Well, it is taking all the words out of my mind.
No, it teaches you to fight. You've got to be a fighter. You know,
yes, you have to be.
And the strongest will survive, is it?
That's right, yes, the stronger will survive. That's why you find other brands who came in for the hype. They disappeared in the marketplace. Okay. It's only because they came in because they saw it. It's a nice platform to do it. And thereafter, they do not understand about the whole basic. Grounded. Yes, you need to be grounded. For example, like, how long have I been as well for the, I mean, even your DHL, the top designers, international designers, they started to crack it at 30 years involved in the business. If you find the history, you cannot just come today and think that because of what you see in the media and what the media portrayed about you, and you think, therefore, that's how the person is. At the end of the day, it's totally different ballgame altogether.
On that point, do you think the local media is doing enough to promote local fashion designers or designs?
No. They are not, but also there's one other aspect that I've picked up, that they haven't yet learned and know how to write about fashion. Yeah. They are not the right critics of the fashion. They come into your fashion show, they will just write anything because they don't like you or you are not friendly with them. They won't look at actually make it a point that they are great at fashion.
Because we're so Afrocentric to a certain extent.
Well, I think that could be another point, but I think another point about perhaps why the industry is suffering is that to a large extent, maybe a lot of the designers are not looking at themselves as a business. You know, a normal business will have a marketing department, a sales team, you know, and all of that. Now that's where sponsorship comes in, you know, because your core business is design, but there are these support services that are necessary to actually make that core business a success. And I think we need to make sure that companies like AFI give the right kind of advices to the designers to make sure that they establish their brands, not just purely from a design point of view, but make sure that there's a strong marketing team, sales team, and all of that. The legal people that look at the contracts have to be in place to make sure that it is a business. You know, so that when you go out there and talk about your new collection, you've got a PR team that is able to say it in the right way to the right media. Yeah. So that's quite critical.
I think as well, to add just only the salt on the wound, institutions like AFI, they're supposed to make the point that if then you are saying you are going to showcase in their shows, first and foremost, you have to have a stability in your business. Because if you crack the orders, you must be in a position of delivery.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to leave it there. Good delivery is very important. Well, Victor, Sonmobile and Abigail, thank you so much for joining us.